Welcome to Breaking Frontiers.
You see, the truth is, when you truly dedicate yourself to your own growth, when you put in the work, discipline yourself, and hold yourself to a higher standard, you don't need to announce it. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. The people who matter will notice. They'll see the transformation in the way you carry yourself, in the way you handle situations, in the way you move through life with a quiet certainty. And the ones who don't notice, they were never paying attention in the first place. The world teaches you to seek validation, social media, peer pressure, even the way we're raised. It all conditions us to crave external recognition. But the moment you let go of that need, the moment you stop looking for someone else to acknowledge your worth, you become dangerous. Because when you don't need applause, when you don't need constant reassurance, you become self-sufficient. You become a force that moves forward, regardless of who's watching. And that kind of person, that's the kind of person who actually gets things done. So many people waste their energy trying to prove something to others. They talk about their plans, they drop hints about their success, they try to make sure people see them. But that's a trap. The strongest individuals, the ones who truly make an impact, operate in silence. They don't need to tell the world what they're doing because they're too busy doing it. They're too busy refining their craft, mastering their skills, and pushing themselves beyond their limits. That kind of discipline, that level of focus, it speaks for itself. And when you show up one day completely transformed, stronger, wiser, more capable, the world won't ask you how you did it. They'll just see it. And here's the real kicker. The right people will always recognize your growth. You don't need to force them to. You don't need to remind them of how far you've come. Because the people who operate on the same frequency, the ones who understand what discipline and self-mastery require, they will see the work you've put in. They'll respect it, even if they never say a word about it. And those who don't, they were never meant to see it. Not everyone is capable of recognizing greatness in its early stages. Most people only acknowledge success when it's fully formed, when it's undeniable. But by then, you won't care about their recognition anyway, because you'll have already become who you were meant to be. This is why silence is so powerful. When you don't announce your every move, when you keep your focus inward instead of outward, you strip away the distractions. You stop worrying about who's impressed and who isn't. You stop getting caught up in petty comparisons, in meaningless opinions. And suddenly, your energy is yours again. Your mind becomes clear, your vision sharp. You start building instead of boasting. And the more you do that, the more unstoppable you become. Some people will mistake your silence for weakness. They'll assume you're not doing much because they can't see what's happening behind the scenes. Let them think that. Let them underestimate you. Because the moment you show up, fully prepared, fully transformed, there won't be anything left to say. The work will speak for itself. And let's be honest, if you have to convince people of your worth, you're wasting your time. Your value isn't something that needs to be debated or explained. It's something that is demonstrated through your actions, through your results. People with true power, true influence, they don't run around trying to prove themselves. They don't need to. They just are. And the world takes notice when it's ready. So stop waiting for recognition. Stop looking for applause. Focus on yourself. Keep building. Stay disciplined. And when the time comes, when you've put in the work, when you've become undeniable, the right people will see it. And the ones who don't, they were never meant to. You know, there's something deeply powerful about a person who doesn't feel the need to broadcast their every thought, their every move, their every success. There's something about them that commands respect, that makes people pay attention. Not because they demand it, but because their presence alone carries weight. The ability to hold your tongue, to resist the impulse to explain yourself, to prove yourself, that's not weakness, that's strength. And the reason it's so rare is because it's difficult. Most people are desperate to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged. They want to make sure others know what they're doing, what they're thinking, what they're planning. And why? Because they're uncertain, they're insecure. They haven't yet developed the kind of internal stability that allows them to move through the world without constantly seeking external validation. But the moment you learn to resist that urge, the moment you realize you don't owe anyone an explanation, you take back your power. See, silence is not passivity, it's not avoidance, it's strategy, it's control, it's the discipline to choose when to speak, when to act, and when to simply observe. And that's something most people never master, because it requires patience, it requires restraint. But those who do, they move differently. They carry themselves with a quiet confidence that unsettles people. Because nothing is more intimidating than a person who doesn't need to prove a damn thing. And that's the real secret, isn't it? The moment you stop feeling the need to announce your every move, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. When people can't read you, when they don't know what you're thinking, what you're planning, where you're headed, they can't interfere. They can't sabotage. They can't manipulate because they have nothing to work with. They're left guessing. And in a world where most people are an open book, constantly sharing, constantly explaining, constantly giving away their position, you become an anomaly. You become the kind of person others watch closely but never fully understand. That's why the most dangerous individuals, the ones who truly shape the world, are often the quietest in the room. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they know when to say it. They know that words, when used sparingly, carry more weight. They understand that speaking less forces others to listen more. And when they do speak, their words hit harder, cut deeper, resonate longer. But here's the problem. Silence makes people uncomfortable, makes them uneasy. They'll accuse you of being distant, cold, arrogant. They'll try to draw you into meaningless conversations, to make you reveal your thoughts, your plans, your emotions. Not because they care, but because they can't stand not knowing. They can't stand the idea that you have something they don't. Control. And that's exactly why you need to hold on to it. Because the moment you break, the moment you start explaining yourself, justifying yourself, making sure everyone understands your perspective, you lose leverage. You give people insight into your mind, into your intentions. And once they have that, they can start to predict you. They can start to manipulate you. That's why silence isn't just about discipline, it's about survival. It's about making sure that when you do speak, it actually means something. Now, I'm not saying you should never share your thoughts, your plans, your emotions. Of course, there are people who deserve to hear them. But those people are rare. They are earned. Not everyone who asks for your time, your energy, your insight deserves it. And if you give it away too freely, you cheapen it. You become just another voice in the crowd, another person clamoring for attention. But when you know the value of your words, when you understand the impact of restraint, you force people to pay attention. You force them to recognize that you are not like the rest. You are not reckless with your energy, with your speech, with your presence. And that makes you stand out in a way that no amount of noise ever could. So, let others talk. Let them reveal their every move, their every thought, their every insecurity. Let them chase validation, chase recognition, chase approval. But you, move in silence. Build in silence. Grow in silence. And when the time is right, when the moment demands it, speak. Not because you need to be heard, but because you have something worth saying. People don't realize how limited their energy truly is. They go through life carelessly, spending it on things that drain them. Pointless arguments, toxic relationships, empty distractions, without ever stopping to ask whether it's worth it. But energy isn't infinite. It's not something you can waste and expect to recover instantly. It's precious, and where you direct it determines the trajectory of your life. If you're constantly giving your time and attention to the wrong people, if you're always reacting to negativity, always engaging in meaningless debates, you're throwing away the very thing that fuels your progress. And then you wonder why you feel exhausted, why you're unmotivated, why you can't seem to make the changes you desperately want to make. It's because you're leaking energy in places that give you nothing in return. You have to stop doing that. You have to start protecting yourself. There are people in your life who thrive on your attention, not because they care about you, but because they feed off your reaction. The moment you respond to them, the moment you engage, you're giving them control over your state of mind. And that's a losing game. Because the people who drain you will never stop unless you decide to stop them. That means setting boundaries. That means learning to walk away from conversations that serve no purpose. That means refusing to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It also means being intentional with where you invest your focus. And you have to ask yourself, is this worth my energy? If it's not making you stronger, wiser, or more disciplined, then why are you giving it your attention? Every decision you make, every battle you choose to fight comes at a cost. And if you're not careful, you'll wake up one day realizing you spent all your strength on things that never really matter. But when you start guarding your energy, when you stop letting every little thing steal your focus, you become dangerous. You become the kind of person who doesn't waver, who doesn't get thrown off course by trivial nonsense. You become someone who moves with purpose, who invests in things that actually bring results. And the moment you do that, your entire life starts to shift. Because energy, when directed properly, creates momentum. It builds something real. But if you're always letting yourself be pulled in 100 different directions, always allowing other people's chaos to invade your mind, you will never have enough left to build the life you want. So protect it, guard it, like your future depends on it. Because it does. The ability to focus is one of the rarest and most powerful skills a person can develop. And make no mistake, it is a skill. It's not something you're simply born with or without. It's something that requires discipline, intention, and an active rejection of the distractions that pull so many people away from their true potential. Because mastery, real mastery, is not a product of talent alone. It's the result of sustained, undivided attention to a singular pursuit over long stretches of time, despite every possible temptation to veer off course. Most people never reach their full potential because they can't commit to anything long enough to become exceptional at it. They start something, they get excited, they make a little progress, and then they stop. Why? Because they get bored. Because it gets hard. Because something new and shiny grabs their attention. And so they jump from one thing to the next, always chasing excitement, always seeking novelty, never staying in one place long enough to actually build something meaningful. That's not mastery, that's mediocrity. And it's exactly why so many people live with a constant gnawing sense of dissatisfaction. The people who achieve mastery, who truly rise above, are the ones who learn to endure the monotony of deep work. Because let's be honest, getting good at something isn't always exciting. There are days when it feels repetitive, when it feels tedious, when it feels like you're making no progress at all. But those are the moments that separate the amateurs from the experts. The amateurs quit, the experts push through. And over time, the gap between them widens until one is forgettable and the other is undeniable. This is why focus is so crucial. It's not just about avoiding distractions. It's about committing to something with such intensity that improvement becomes inevitable. It's about understanding that mastery isn't a single explosive moment of brilliance, but rather the accumulation of thousands of small, deliberate efforts. It's about showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it. But here's the catch. Focus requires sacrifice. If you want to be truly great at something, you have to be willing to give up the things that pull you away from it. That means saying no to distractions, no to mindless entertainment, no to the people and activities that consume your time without giving anything back. And that's hard because distractions are easy. They're comfortable. They give you an instant hit of pleasure without demanding anything from you. But comfort doesn't lead to greatness. Discipline does. And when you master the art of focus, when you dedicate yourself fully to a pursuit, the world starts to take notice. Not because you talked about it, not because you announced your plans, but because the results speak for themselves. Mastery is unmistakable. And the people who have it, the ones who have put in the work, don't need to prove anything to anyone. They just are. People waste so much time talking about what they're going to do. They lay out their plans. They tell everyone about their ambitions. They talk and talk as if saying it out loud is enough to make it real. But words are cheap. Anyone can talk. What actually matters is execution, what you do, not what you say you'll do. Because at the end of the day, the world doesn't care about your intentions. It only recognizes results. There's a reason why the most competent, most disciplined individuals don't spend their energy explaining themselves. They don't need to. Their work speaks for them. Their progress speaks for them. And the moment you start prioritizing action over words, your entire approach to life changes. You stop trying to convince people of your worth. You stop explaining your goals to those who wouldn't understand them. You stop seeking validation. Instead, you become what you set out to be, and you let the evidence speak for itself. And here's the thing, people are always watching, even when you think they aren't. They see how you carry yourself, how you handle adversity, how you respond to challenges. They hear what you say, but more importantly, they pay attention to whether or not your actions align with it. If you're all talk, they'll recognize it. If you're disciplined and consistent, they'll recognize that too. And the truth is, respect is never earned through words alone. It's earned through effort, through resilience, through the quiet, relentless pursuit of something greater. But most people don't have the patience for that. They want recognition now. They want praise before they've even done the work. And that's why so many never achieve anything substantial, because they waste their energy trying to be seen instead of becoming someone worth seeing. They trade real progress for the illusion of progress. They mistake talking about success for actually building it. When you stop announcing your every move, when you stop feeling the need to explain yourself, something shifts. You regain control over your energy. You eliminate distractions. You become the kind of person who acts decisively, who follows through, who doesn't need approval to stay committed. And over time, that consistency compounds. People start to notice, not because you told them to, but because the results make it impossible to ignore. So don't tell them, don't explain, don't justify, don't seek validation. Just do it. Build, create, improve, day in and day out, without the need for applause. Because in the end, it's not your words that will define you, it's the legacy of your actions. Most people spend their lives chasing recognition, desperate for others to see their worth, to acknowledge their effort, to validate their existence. They explain themselves endlessly, hoping that if they just say the right thing, if they just make people understand, then finally they'll be taken seriously. But that's not how the world works. The people who truly matter, the ones who recognize value, don't need to be convinced. They see what's real. They see what's undeniable. And if you're doing something worthwhile, if you're putting in the effort, if you're building something substantial, you won't have to announce it. The right people will notice. That's the paradox. The more you chase attention, the less valuable you appear. Desperation repels. It signals uncertainty. And people, whether consciously or not, respond to that. They can sense when someone is trying too hard to prove themselves. They can sense when someone is seeking approval instead of simply being what they claim to be. And they ignore it. They tune it out because real competence, real mastery, doesn't beg to be seen. It stands on its own. Look at the people who command respect effortlessly. They aren't the ones shouting their achievements from the rooftops. They aren't the ones demanding to be noticed. They are the ones immersed in their work, completely focused, indifferent to whether or not anyone is watching. And because of that, people do watch. Because of that, people take notice. Because there is something rare, something magnetic about a person who is so deeply committed to their path that they have no need for external validation. And the reality is, most people won't notice at first. They won't understand the effort, the discipline, the sacrifices you're making. They won't see the long hours, the setbacks, the quiet, relentless push forward. And that's fine, because you're not doing it for them. You're not doing it for applause. You're doing it because it matters. Because you've decided that becoming something greater is more important than being recognized for it. And the moment you embrace that, the moment you stop worrying about who's paying attention, everything changes. Because over time, something interesting happens. The right people, the ones who do recognize effort, who do respect discipline, who do understand what it takes, will start to see. They'll notice, not because you told them to, but because the results are undeniable. They'll notice because excellence doesn't stay hidden forever. It may take time, but it always reveals itself. And when it does, the recognition will come. But by then, you won't even need it, because you'll have already built something real, something that speaks louder than words ever could. You have a choice in this life. You can spend your time explaining yourself, chasing approval, and scattering your energy in every direction, or you can focus on yourself, on your growth, on the work that actually matters. You can let distractions pull you away, or you can move in silence, guarding your energy, refusing to waste it on things and people that add nothing to your progress. Mastery isn't built through words. It's built through relentless discipline, through the quiet consistency of showing up every single day, even when no one is watching. It's built by those who understand that true power comes from action, not empty declarations. And the ones who succeed, they don't waste time proving themselves. They simply become undeniable. So stop explaining, stop seeking recognition, stop announcing every move. Let your work speak for you, let your results be the only proof you need. Because when you commit fully to your path, when you discipline yourself to focus, build, and grow without distraction, something incredible happens. The right people take notice, the right opportunities emerge, and the world recognizes what is impossible to ignore. But by then, you won't even need the recognition, because you'll already know exactly who you are.